The Battle of Stamford Bridge on the 25th of September 1066 took place near the village of Stamford Bridge, East Riding of Yorkshire in England. The battle was fought between King Harold Godwinson of the Saxon English army and King Harald Hadrada's Viking army, allied with the English king's brother Tostig Godwinson. After a bloody battle, both Hadrada and Tostig, along with most of the Norwegians, were killed. Although Harold Godwinson repelled the Norwegian invaders, his armies was defeated by the Normans at Hastings less than 3 weeks later. The battle has traditionally been presented as symbolising the end of the Viking Age, although major Scandinavian campaigns in Britain and Ireland occurred in the following decades, such as those of King Swin Estridsson of Denmark in 1069 to 1070, and King Magnus Barefoot of Norway in 1098 and 1102 to 1103. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor of England died, leading to a series of battles from contenders throughout northwestern Europe for the English throne. Harald Hadrada, the King of Norway, was one of the contenders. The Norwegians assembled a fleet of 300 ships to invade England, which according to Snorri Sturluson included around 100 supply ships. Combined with reinforcements picked up in Orkney, the Norwegian army was around 7,000 to 9,000 men. Arriving off the English coast in September, Hadrada was joined by further forces recruited in Flanders and Scotland by Tostig Godwinson. Tostig, who was Harold Godwinson's younger brother and was exiled in 1065, having lost his position as the Earl of Northumbria, Tostig had already tried to attack England during the spring of 1066. In the late summer of 1066, the Viking invaders sailed up the Ouse before advancing on York. On the 20th of September 1066, outside the walls of the city of York, Hadrada defeated an English army led by Edwin, Earl of Mercia, and his brother Morcar, Earl of Northumbrian, in the Battle of Fulford. Following the surrender of York, Harold briefly occupied the city, taking hostages and supplies before returning to the base at Rickle. Hadrada sued for peace with Northumbria in order to obtain the support for his claim to the throne. During the Battle of Fulford and the capture of York, King Harold, waiting in southern England for an invasion threat from France by William, Duke of Normandy, who was another contender for the English throne. On hearing of Hadrada's invasion, Harold headed north quickly, travelling by day and night, raising an army en route. It took Harold only 4 days to travel the 185 miles from London to Yorkshire, and he was able to take Hadrada's armies by surprise. King Harold learned that Hadrada was sending supplies and hostages to Stamford Bridge and would meet them in battle on the 20th of September 1066. Hadrada's forces were unaware of any hostile armies in the area until the Saxon English army came into sight. The exact location of Stamford Bridge battlefield is not known, although local tradition believes the battlefield is southeast of the town of Stamford and to the east of the River Derwent. The Norwegians were caught by surprise by the sudden appearance of the Saxon army. When the main force of the Saxon army arrived, many Vikings had already been killed and were fleeing across the bridge of the River Derwent. The bridge slowed the advance of the Saxon army. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle has it that a giant Norse axeman single-handedly blocked the bridge and holding up the advance of the Saxon forces. Legend has it that the axeman killed 40 Saxons before he was killed by a lone Saxon with a spear thrust up from under the bridge. The Norse axeman had allowed enough time for Hadrada's forces to form a defensive shield wall. Harold's army regrouped once they were able to cross the bridge. The Viking army, though, was at a disadvantage, as they had left their armour behind when the Saxon army surprised them. The Viking shield wall eventually fragmented, and the army was outflanked, and defeat was inevitable after the deaths of Tostig and Hadrada, who was killed by an arrow to the windpipe. Or, who was to be Hadrada's son-in-law, was also slain. Legend has it that the field was still whitened and bleached by bones 50 years after the battle. In the aftermath, King Harold accepted a truce with the Norwegians, who survived, pledging never to attack England again. They would retreat to the Isle of Orkney. Norwegian losses at the Battle of Stamford Bridge were so great that only 24 of the original 300 ships were needed to carry home the survivors. But Harold's victory was short-lived. 3 days after the Battle of Stamford Bridge, William, Duke of Normandy, landed near Hastings on the southeast coast of England on the 28th of September 1066. Harold had to return immediately to the south of England, arriving 3 weeks later on the 14th of October 1066. King Harold would be killed at the Battle of Hastings, and the Saxons would be routed, giving way to the Norman conquest of England.